G'day fellow flight simmers and random YouTubers. Today I'm doing a video in response to a question I got asked by a guy that I'm fairly good friends with. He's a regular flyer on backpack, and he's unfamiliar with the Cessna, and he just doesn't understand, or not quite familiar with the settings out. And he basically asked me, I was telling him about the VOR indicator, VOR indicator 1, and he's asked me about this. Now today I'm flying, as you can see. I took off from San Diego and I'm flying along the 325 radial up to Oceanside, and then I'll be doing a VOR into Catalina. And there's a few things I want to talk about, and one of them is, like I said, in response, the gentleman that I was talking to, he didn't understand what this VOR, and his question to me was, what does a VOR indicator 2 do? Is it a backup? And I said, yes, it can be a backup, but also, and I thought to myself, well, that's probably another topic, something we can address in another video. So without further ado, as you can see, I'm tracking on the 325 radial into Oceanside. Oceanside is 115.3, and you can see here, this is the Oceanside VOR there. There it is up there, 115, and we're following the Victor 23 radial inbound. So if you don't know how to track inbound, outbound radials, well, just look at my previous video. I'll give a link in the description. And yeah, and he's like I said, this gentleman didn't quite understand. Now, as I said to my previous video, this here is a Vortac. It's got DME with it, and so you can see from the charts, if I wanted to know what point I'm at Carif, I can see from the chart that it's 16 DME. Carif is 16 DME. And now now we're at 16 DME, right? And you see this annotation here. If you didn't have DME, you can use the second VOR indicator to exactly work out where Carif is. Now you can see here 114.0 and JLI, and JLI is referring to the Julian VOR, and there's the frequency. So 114 tells us the Julian frequency is the Julian frequency, JLI, which is JLI there, and it's 87 DME from Carif to the Julian VOR. So if we on VOR indicator number 2, if we tune into 114.0, and this is VOR indicator 2, sorry, what was it? 0, yep, and the 246. When that lines up, we've actually gone past, because it's like 15.6. So we've actually gone past it. But when that's lined up horizontally, straight up and down, you know you've gone past the 246 radial from Julian. Now unfortunately I've gone past it, but hopefully there'll be another opportunity when I can do it. And just looking at this chart here, yeah, once I get up around this area here, or once I get to there, I'll show you how exactly this works. But that's the other way, or that's the main way we use the VOR indicator. It's used as a cross-reference, and like I said, if you didn't have DME, because not all vortex or VORs have DME, you use the second VOR indicator as a cross-reference. So we're about 13 and a half nautical miles from. Now today I'm doing this flight, as I said, and I'm treating it like consider this we're in IFR, even though it's a beautiful day. Consider this, we're doing this as a VOR, an IFR flight. Assume we're IMC conditions, and we're going to try to do a VOR approach. Now, I'll just show you what the VOR approach is into. I think this is, you can see here we're doing the VOR, and it's got VOR, DME, GPS, and there's no runway. And as you can see here, there's no information, no TDs, ZDs, touchdown zone elevation, and available runway. There is no information of that on that, I should say. And the reason being, pure and simple, is that the approach does not line us up with any runway at all. Okay, so that's why if it doesn't line us up with any runway, then obviously you can't have any information on it. It just stands to reason. So today, and you can see that it's a circling approach because there is no other, and you can see it gets us down. The MDA is 2,220, and we need 1 nautical mile visibility, and that translates to 618. It gets us down to 618 feet above the airport, and you can see that the airport elevation is 1600, so you add another 16 or 618 on top of that, and you get down to the MDA. So 618 plus the airport elevation will give you 220. So that there, 618, will give us, will get us down. So basically you're trying to get below the cloud. Now obviously if the cloud base is, say, sometimes it can be overcast at 300, then we cannot use this arrival into Santa Catalina. Now also the question is, why am I doing this? Well, because I bought Santa Catalina the other day. I just want to check out the scenery. But it's also, there's other things that I can discuss as well. Like I said, more specifically, the cross-referencing and how I'm going to do that. So we've got 8.2 nautical miles to go. Now, people ask me, what do I fly in the US? Well, purely and simply, because you've got all this information. In Australia, you don't have all this information, and it's quite boring actually. The charts are quite boring, and I guess it's just more of a challenge flying in the US. Now you notice that, like I mentioned in my other video, I'm using the low world. You can use the en route. I can use the en route there, and like I said, that's because I'm flying below flight level 180. If obviously I'm flying higher, well, I use a different set of charts. So you can see I'm tracking that radial, 325 radial, or tracking that Victor airway really beautifully. Now let's hope when I transition from the ocean side and track outbound, I hope I can do a better job than I did on my previous video. Okay, so 115.3 ocean side, and we want to track outbound 264. there it is there. Looks alright. It's also important to note that it's also good to try to memorise. You'll see, you try to memorise this, what you plan to do, and try to internalise it. Basically, that's what I try to do. Doesn't always happen, but mostly in the real world they carry the charts anyhow. So just quickly going over, just for those who are not familiar, before I go on, I'll just make sure I don't overshoot. Track 26264 outbound. Done it again. I've overshot. I'll get this right one day. Okay, we're now established on the 264 radial outbound. I executed that very poorly, you'll see from don't know what's happened to plan G. frozen up on me. Oh well, we'll just close it. Let's see. Okay, you can see now that I'm flying on that airway there. Okay, I'm established on that Victor 208 radial outbound. Okay, now, like I said, you can see here there's a waypoint called passive, and if I tune the Pomona VOR 110.4 and tune in the 163 radial, let's see, so we'll go 110. I'll get it in a minute. And we'll tune 164 radial. Okay, so we see it's to our right and we're tracking away from it, or sorry, it's away from the VOR. So we've got the Pomona 10.4, 110.4, so it should indicate about 17 DME. We should see passive. But once again, once we get to 17 DME, this line, the CDI, the course deviation indicator, should line up. And as we're getting closer and closer to passive, we should see this CDI getting swing to the left and line up when we cross the passive waypoint. And just as a check, we see us okay, so let's just see. Oh, by the way, just thought I'd show you. Don't know if you can see that, but I've got Heidi with me today. Nice hazy day. I don't know if you've noticed, but you see that CDI, it's just getting close, slowly swinging to that centre mark. Turbulence there. You can see it now. Almost. We're about 1, 2 little dots, 2.5, nearly 2 dots away. like the last video. Yep, I've got plenty of fuel. Just chuck that on the left wing tank so that the fuel tanks are not out of balance. Remember what I said. So you got 8 to Hubert, so 17 DME, there it is there, that little arrow, or that 17 to that arrow means 17 from Oceanside, passive is 17 DME. So 16 down the bottom there, the DME readings 16.3. Let's see if all the information all lines up. Looks like we're pretty well spot on. There's 17 and we're lined up. So we know that at that point now, we know we've gone past passive. And there it is. We've gone past passive. So it all lines up. Okay, and we're tracking beautifully inbound. What I might do is actually change over frequency, track inbound, because we've got to use the VOR obviously later on for the approach. So we're going to track 164 inbound on 111 okay. So got it all ready, and I should remember 164 inbound. Okay. So 264. Can't even add. So 84 and 180 is 264. How hard can it be? Okay, so we're now tracking inbound on the Santa Catalina VOR 264 radial, and just there's the coastline there. I don't think, no, can't see Catalina, Santa Catalina. Okay, so we're about 30 miles out, so let's talk about this VOR, shall we? As I was saying, it's a circling VOR DME, and it's a circling approach as indicated by the MDA. So really it just tries to get us below the clouds, and then we circle to the appropriate runway. That's basically what this this approach is all about. So I'll be coming in obviously from the east, and then what I'll do is I'll track outbound on the 352 radial, and as long as I remain within 10 nautical miles, that's what this is saying, I'm tracking outbound on the 352 radial, I can descend to not below 3,400, then I can do a left hand turn 307, I go out for 1 minute, and then after a minute I turn right and to intercept the 172 radial inbound, and then you can see Wriggler is the initial approach fix, and as it tells you up here, it's initial and also it's the final approach fix as by the Maltese cross there. And then from we can't go at Wriggler inbound, you can't go below 2,300, and then you can't, no, we've got another 80 feet difference, so really, I mean, you can descend, as long as you don't descend less than 2,220, but we'll stay at 2,300. It's pretty hard to sort of get that exactly right. And the key thing is that the missed approach point is 2.8 because from the VOR, so that's very important. So you've got to be careful that when we get to 2.8 DME, if we can't see the runway, so just to highlight it, so that's important there. So that's important information. It's all important information, but basically, so 2.8 DME. So we've got to remember when this is 2.8, if we can't see the runway, we have to execute a mist. Okay, so it's not much scenery. We've got about 24 minutes. I wish I had some music to play for you. Okay, looks like that's Santa Catalina. One would assume so anyhow. It's the only island, yep. The VFR charts also show you the Victor Airways as well. And also notice on the low en route chart, you've got the 352 radial, which we'll be tracking outbound, and then we'll turn left 327, I think it was, or 307, sorry. We do a right turn, heading 127, intercept the 172 radial, and down to 2,300. And then 2.8 DME. If we can see the airfield, we do a circling approach for the appropriate runway, and in this case 13, the winds are 130 at 4, so 130 at 4, so it looks like we're going with the circling, and we'll be coming down from the north. We'll do the circling approach, and we'll line up for runway 04. I probably won't land. I mean, it's no point trying to show you. No point showing me. It's just more interested in showing the actual approach and how to execute that approach. Okay, so about 18. Now I use Active Sky, and my Active Sky, my flight plan says top of descent about 8 miles. So what I'll do is I'll descend down to 4,000, and then from, I think we can go down to 4,000. I'll just check the charts. Yeah, so I'll fly overhead Wriggler outbound to 4,000, and then just descent to 3,500, and yeah, and then I'll descend to 2,300, and like I said, I won't descend any further. I'll just keep on going and just try to see the airfield at 2.8. I think that's the plan of attack. Oh, that's another thing too, like I said in my previous video, trying to identify Catalina. So it's 3 dots, dash, dot, dot, dash. So 3 dots, dash, dot, dot, dash, dash, dot, dash, dot. Okay, let's see if we can identify it. Let's sounded pretty well, right? You hear the 3 dots anyhow. Yep. Okay, great. So we've identified Santa Catalina VOR. She looks like Orbex have done a nice job. That looks nice. I'll just get this ready, 4,000. It's the first time I've actually flown here, actually. Oh well. I think I might be flying here on a more regular basis. They look like cruise ships down there. Maybe. Okay, that would be Avalon. I guess that's Avalon down there. Yep, the cruise ship's down there. Okay, I'm going to descend down to 4,000. 5 DME from the Santa Catalina VOR. That looks alright. Yeah, not bad. Well, as you could expect, there's a bit of turbulence there. Now, when we track outbound, when we do that left-hand turn 307, like I said, we do a left turn for 1 minute. I've got the Cytec yoke, and I've got a stopwatch on my yoke, so I'll use that rather than, you can use this as a stopwatch. Okay, so make heading mode, we'll go 352. 2, that's on our so we're going to track outbound 352. We can see the airfield there actually, so you can see how the VOR south of the airfield. But for the purpose of this exercise, so we're tracking outbound. See the to and from flags pointing down, which indicates from the VOR, and we've got it there it is. So we've got it. Okay, let's wait till the autopilot does some fine adjustments. Okay, so 111.4, which is the Santa Catalina VOR on the 352 radio outbound, and we're 2.3 miles away, and you can see we're tracking away from it because the DME reading is increasing. So we've got 10 miles to play with. Now we can descend to 3,500. So descend to 300 feet a minute. Oops. I've got to find out why it doesn't. and as I said, when we're tracking inbound on the 172 radial, we can go down to 2,300. Five DME. Let's see how we. I'll actually bring up Plan G after we've done the turns and see how well we've executed this. Got to bring up our speed a bit. We've always got to constantly scan these dials. Okay, so we're nearly 6.5 DME. Basically we can do this, it's called a course reversal, basically, that's what this is. Because you're flying outbound, and then you're doing course reversal, and then you're flying inbound there. So if I can just hopefully annotate it. You're going outbound there, 307, then you're coming back in, intercepting the 172 radial inbound, and you're coming down to 2,220. So that's basically what we're trying to do here. As long as you do that within DME, you can do that procedure turn, not a procedure turn, this course reversal here. As long as you remain within 10 DME. So we're 7.6, and how fast? Okay, so we're 8 DME, so let's turn left heading 307. Okay, we start our minute. So we go outbound. Oh, sorry, not outbound. We go 307 for a minute, and then we do a right turn for 127. And this is all standard rate turns, by the way. Actually, we might bust it to 10 DME here. Oh well, these things happen. About 45 seconds. Okay, we can start turning right. 127. Just busted it. Naughty. No good. Okay. Now we need to track inbound, as I said, to 172, so need to move this to 172. And hit the nav. So we're tracking inbound 172. And now we can start descending down to 2,300. Trying to intercept that 172 radial inbound. Okay, now we start correcting back up. And we bring our altitude. Okay, that was a lot of messing about. I could have done that a lot better, but we can see we're tracking 172 inbound. We're descending down to 2,300 now. And remember what I said, we have to be at 2.8 DME of 5.3. If we can't see the runway at 2.8 DME, like I said, 2.8 DME from the Santa Catalina VOR, we execute the missed approach as indicated there. Let's have a look. This will be a bit of a dog's breakfast on this. Yeah. So I did that part alright. I turned and then I've just overshot. I should have turned and give myself plenty of chance. I've overshot and then I've tried to get myself back. So that part was executed poorly, tracking back. You can see now, obviously it's VFR conditions, but you can see we're down to 3,000. And let's say now, let's say if we were IFR, but we got down below the clouds and we could see now the runway. We can proceed visually, and then, like I said, it'll be runway 04. So we'd track towards base, and then we'd come in and land that way. But okay, so you see 2.8 DME, we can see the runway. It's beautiful, and we can now land. So now we can do what they call the circling approach. We'll either track for right base, runway 04, I think it is. Runway 22. No, sorry, 04. My apologies. So that would be runway 04. So that's basically it. Like I said, I could have executed that turn a little bit better. But still, hopefully you get the gist of what I'm trying to do. I think I should have started the turn around about the 6.5, 7 miles. Would have given myself plenty of room. Anyhow, wasn't too bad. Like I said, that's just that part there is just the iffy part. Tracking the VORs beautifully. So I intercepted the outbound radial really well, so I did that alright. But anyhow, that's me done. Till next time, see you all later. Cheers.